Well, hello everyone. For the first time ever, it is Ben Hook and Tom Rehn together to take you through all that matters in South Australian sport. We are called Strike Me Pink in honour of Ken KG Cunningham, the patron saint of South Australian sports broadcasting, a hero to both Tommy and myself. I'm at home in Adelaide. Tom Rehn, you're in the Channel 9 newsroom. Hello.
Yeah, g'day, Hookie. Great to be on board. I'm really looking forward to this. And what a great name. It was an idea that you came up with, which I love. And we both know KG very well. I saw him at the Best of SA function for 5AA probably 2 weeks ago. And Hookie, it was incredible. We had some great speakers that night. Graham Corns, Rowie got up there, Timmy G, Tony Pilkington, Jane Doyle, people that have rolled through AA over the years. KG was the only one that got a spontaneous standing ovation. He's just revered. And as you know, as everyone knows that's listening, just one of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet. So it's a bit of an homage, as you say, to the great man, and hopefully we do it some justice.
A hero of mine, a hero of yours, and it is nice to be able to recognise him with what we are going to do. And I tell you what we're going to do. We are going to be talking about everything that matters in South Australian sport, but we are going to be doing it in a heck of a hurry. We want to be no longer than the traditional 20-minute Adelaide commute. I think that is perfectly appropriate for a South Australian sports program. Let's get straight into it, mate. Of course, Showdown 60 is on Saturday night. What a massive game it is going to be. Adelaide flying, Port Adelaide struggling. You throw the form book out the window when it comes to showdowns. But Tom, the Adelaide Crows have been in excellent form in recent times. Can we trust them after the disappointment of the final series last year?
I think so. I reckon after the bye, Hookie, I've seen a noticeable change. I think that win against Geelong just built belief, and you know it better than I do, just that confidence and that cohesion. And I think that just belief they can win close games. They won in the wet against the Cats by a point, found a way. It was really gritty. The next week, that first quarter is the best quarter they've played this season for mine against the Bulldogs. Blew them away. Dogs threw it, everything at them in the second and third quarter. But Jordan Dawson's first quarter, I think, is the best individual quarter I've seen in probably 5 years in the competition. But again, that was a different type of win. And then last week against Melbourne, it was a gritty arm wrestle of a game, and they found a way. What I'm loving is they're winning in different ways. I had my doubts going into the bye, Hookie. I had them as a C+ for the report card, if you like, midway through the season at 6-5. Since they've won those 3 games in a row, and I know we can chop and change and our opinions, flip quickly, but I think they have to be aiming for nothing less than top 4. I think we can trust them, and I think they're in the type of form right now. They should just go out and win on the weekend and win pretty comfortably. You?
Even in the first half of the year, I mean, their contest has always been a constant with them, but you will know this better than me. I feel like they are developing some flair into their game that we perhaps haven't really seen right throughout the entire Matthew Nicks reign, and I think that is going to be really important to have a few aces up your sleeve when you head towards a final series.
Spot on. And the other thing too I like, Hookie, and I don't know if this is by design or whether they've tried to manufacture it, but last season, I know they were really good record-wise post-bye, but it felt like they limped in. Felt like the car, and we've all driven it, particularly in the current climate, where you just got enough fuel to keep going.
Yeah.
It felt like this year, it feels like, and things can change, but it feels like they're ramping up towards the finals. I look at the
car's had a service. The car's had a service. It's running nicely. It's full of gas.
Totally.
The battery's just been replaced. The tyres have got a nice fresh lick of paint on the outside.
And it's just humming, isn't it? And I look at a team like Freo, and they are going so well, and I love what Justin Longmuir has done. But I wonder, and they'll probably make fools of me, most people do, but I wonder, they've won 13 in a row, incredible comeback against the Cats. But are they a bit like the Crows last year? They're just going full bore at the moment. Can you keep that going for the whole season? I'm not sure. I think their midfield's better than Adelaide's, no doubt. And that's going to count for plenty. But I look at the two, and I just like the way Adelaide's building. If they can get to top 4, they're a contender. Have to be.
I do think that whatever the Adelaide Football Club does between now and September really means sort of nothing, doesn't it? Unless they don't qualify, and that's unlikely. I think we're going to see them play finals in particular now with a top 10. But I think if they don't win a final this year, it's ultimately going to be judged as a failure. And the classic case in point that you referred to with Fremantle, who have won 13 games in a row. Now, the last club to win 13 games in a row was Port Adelaide in 2023, who didn't even make the grand final. So I think it's another classic example that you can do everything very, very well in the minor round, but You only have to do enough to qualify, and then it's what you do from there that you'll be ultimately judged on. And I think that's the point for Adelaide right now.
I reckon when they lost those two finals last season, didn't win a quarter, and I think they were the first ever minor premier for that to happen to everyone from Victoria. And you know that's where the bulk of the media is and the scrutiny comes. And they don't tend to look outside of that Victorian bubble unless you're serious. So everyone's looking at Freo, Sydney. They're just starting to zero in on the Crows again. And everyone at the end of last season, and you would have got it as well, Hookie, said to me, well, they're finals failures. They don't stand up in big games. Unfortunately, they can only answer that when they get back there. And as you know, it's bloody hard to get there. They will get there now, but you are spot on. Matthew Nicks, his whole failure or success of this season hinges on winning a final. If they don't do that, it's a failure. If they win a final and at least get through to prelim week, then I think it's a pass. Anything beyond that is obviously even better. So that's where they're going to get judged, but they've got to get there first. And I think there was a bit of a hangover at the start of this season because of that, Hookie. There was a bit of, God, we just gave everything and we've got nothing to show for it, and we're not going to prove ourselves until we get back there. But now I think they can see that, and that's close. And now I think they're excited for what lies ahead. And it feels like there's been a noticeable shift for me.
Let's go to the other side of the ledger. That's the 5th-ranked Adelaide Crows, the 15th-ranked Port Adelaide. I think all eyes are on their acting captain, Zach Butters. Is this his last showdown?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just all the rhetoric and even little things. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but he said SA's done pretty well, to keep me here this long in his press conference. It said to me he's going. And I genuinely think it's a family, a bit like Paddy Dangerfield.
Yep.
Yeah, he could get paid really well here too. And I think Josh Carr has done a good job at saying, come on, mate, we need to know. They're not going to tell us. We're not, unfortunately, in that environment like rugby league are where players come out at this time of year or even earlier. But it feels like to me, Hookie, that he's gone, which is disappointing. But you know what? I look at Port's list and he's so good, but they are so bereft of top-end talent. I think they need to go back to the drawing board and just almost start again.
Two things very quickly. One, would you be comfortable if Zach had have come out yesterday and said, yes, I will be going at the end of the year?
I would be. Yep. Because I don't think anyone can fault how hard he goes at it. I know it's not the done thing and it goes against the trend, but I think we're mature enough as an industry now. It's probably like, Hookie, you and I have left jobs before and gone to other employers, and other listeners would have as well. You don't do a worse job, I don't think. In fact, I've always sort of been taught sprint to the line. Don't give anyone an excuse to say he was a lazy prick at the end. He just turned his toes up. So I've got no problem with it. You?
That's not in Zach Butters' DNA to go half-assed.
Exactly.
To say he's going and then go half-assed after that. He will be all chips in right through to the end of the year. And then I think it would be perfectly appropriate at the Port's last home game. He gets celebrated as he should be for someone who's made an extraordinary contribution to the Port Adelaide Football Club, but he's going home and we should all accept that. And I think we should be mature enough to be able to have that debate now. And I don't think for Port Adelaide that you should really fear this situation that he is going to leave. He's a restricted free agent. Port Adelaide are going to match. They will find a way to cut whatever deal it is to whichever club he's going, that they would be able to cut the same deal. And therefore he's going to generate 3 first-rounders. And 3 first-rounders for a club who has spent a lot on draft capital is going to be quite timely. And I look at it like this, Tom. There's nothing wrong with diversifying an investment. So yes, he is an absolute elite A-grader, Zach Butters, but you can't have all your money in property, right? Sometimes you want to have a little bit in property and a little bit in shares and maybe a little bit in cash. And that's what they get the opportunity to do with 3 first-rounders. And if one of them is a bust, well, the other 2 might be pretty good. And Zach Butters could, do a major knee injury tomorrow and never be quite the same player. So I don't think Port Adelaide, yes, you'd love to keep Zach Butters, of course you would, but I don't think they should fear what the alternative is if that doesn't happen.
And they're in a tricky spot, Port, aren't they, at the moment? I don't know how you feel about this, Hookie, and you played at elite level, you've represented state cricket. So you've been far higher than I have ever been. But I wonder, I thought the Port Sydney game was actually, and a lot of Port fans will hate this, probably me saying it, but I thought it was the perfect result. They probably should have won, put in a great game, but they ultimately lost. Now this is a whole nother debate, but with the draft concessions now all changing and, what you need to give up for NGAs, et cetera, and Dougie Cochrane, I actually think it was the ideal result. I think Port now, it's in their best interests, and you use this terrible T word, tanking. I don't think they're
Yep.
tanking, but I think it's a great result if they're competitive like they were in that game, but ultimately just fall short. I think
Play
where
well
they
and
are
just
right
lose.
now, and just lose. Am I mad?
No, and the competition has asked for that. We're going to segue into talking about the fixture first of all, but
Yes.
yeah, that is one of the great misfortunes is that you're better off in the AFL right now if you're an average side being really, really poor side
Yep.
and start to regenerate by getting those high-end draft picks. And we look at a club like St Kilda who have been
Yes.
bang average for a decade. And they're going to be bang average again this year. They might limp into the top 10, they might not, but they're not going to pick up the high-end draft picks that you really need to regenerate when you're in that mid-tier.
The worst spot to be, I think, in the AFL now is spots 11, 12, 13. Because you're
Yeah.
not in the top 10, you're not in the wild card, and you need to be in the bottom 5 to get the discounts to package up for these NGAs. So the worst position to finish is 11th, 12th, 13th, and guess where St Kilda are? 12th, which is totally where you don't want to be, and they've got injuries now as well.
Before we get off the showdown, one question for you. Tex Walker,
Yeah.
2027, yes or no?
I think right now, I would have said no 6 months ago, but I think right now it's probably yes. I think we've seen when he's out of the side how important he is. His IQ, he
Yeah.
said his body this week is as good as it's felt for a while. I know the cliff comes quickly for these guys and big blokes particularly, but you look at Penrith, modern sports sciences, LeBron James, Lionel Messi, we're seeing it at the World Cup, Cristiano Ronaldo, they can go
Patrick
longer.
Dangerfield, we've already talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. They go longer, Hookie. So I think right now, I wouldn't make that call until really late because he's not going to go anywhere else. But I think if it's in his mind to keep going and he's still playing good, has to be playing really good footy, I'd say yes right now.
Very happy for him to go around next year because I think he's talented and has the capacity to do it. But I'm also mindful of Shane Warne in 2007 when he announced his retirement with a little bit left in the tank. And I do like the concept of athletes leaving us a little bit more rather than just completely squeezing the lemon dry. And I don't know. Look, Tex is always going to be a champion of South Australian football, and the Adelaide Football Club. But I don't know if I want to see him going up and down on the spot and maybe playing half a dozen reserves games next year. That's my only qualifier with all of that. I'm a massive Tex fan.
Call.
Love to see him go around next year, but equally, I would have no problem with him getting to the end of this year and saying, that's it. Yep, I could have gone around next year, but no, it's time for someone else. And then we all get to the end and say, wasn't it great to see him go out on a real high, a la Shane Warne at the MCG, spinning one past, who was the
Andrew Strauss, was it?
Strauss, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
You've got an amazing memory. So
it's a good call. Good call, Hookie, because, you want to see guys that go, I wish they could have maybe given me a few more games rather than, oh my God, hang them up, man, like you're done.
Just very quickly, let's go around the AFL. Would you like a mid-season tournament with the change in the fixture when we go to 19 teams with the Tasmanian arrival?
Don't know if I love it. I quite like the wild card thing, and I know that's probably going to annoy a few people. I don't mind that idea.
I like wild card. For the record, I'm a big fan of the wild card. I think it's going to make a big difference to the year.
And it just keeps those sides like St Kilda, Collingwood, in the debate. Yeah, they're probably not going to win the flag. In fact, I don't know how many sides from 9th or 10th are ever going to even make a grand final in the next 20 years. Be a nice one to revisit 2 decades from now. The mid-season tournament, I'm a bit more lukewarm on that one, Hookie. You?
Huge red flag for me. I just feel like it's going to be trial games in the middle of the year. Look, this is a concept that's come from basketball where they play, 80-odd games a year. So if you go from 80 to 83, it's no great addition to the workload. But when you're talking about AFL and the brutality of the game and the 5-6 day rest that you need to be able to generate, to be able to return and play again, I think you're potentially going to have 3 games that are going to be irrelevant to the season and going to be a real momentum killer. So if there's one thing I do not want to see, it is a mid-season tournament. I don't mind the concept that they stretch the season maybe from 24 to 25 weeks, but a 3-week mid-season tournament does absolutely nothing at all for me. Hey, if you had to be put to the sword, who will coach Carlton in 2027?
If I had to put my money, I'd say John Longmire. I think he's, just a guy that knows how to tough standards, has success, respected. Josh Fraser's putting together a very good case, isn't he? I mean, what? Is it an indictment? Michael Voss want to play it, but it's a bit of an indictment, isn't it, on Voss that the side has responded like this? And a bit of that has to be on the players. But wow, 1-8, was it? And now 5 and 6 since.
5 and 0.
That's and I know there's been a couple of weaker sides in amongst that, Hookie, but I don't think anybody anticipated they'd win 5. I mean, they are legitimately a top 10 chance, which is extraordinary.
Essendon. Who coaches Essendon in 2027?
2027, Essendon. I get the feeling they might maybe. For me, I'd go James Hird. And
Me
then
too.
put to bed forever. And then everyone can say, there's not going to be this what if we went down. I don't think Essendon's ever recovered, Hookie, since the stuff there.
Never get over them to give him another
Agree.
title. Go for it.
Now,
Be whatever you like, Essendon. I don't know that he's the ideal guy, but I think that's the one that the fans and the coterie groups and all of that, they're all going to get behind James Hird. We understand how they'll rally in that manner, and I just think it's worth the experiment. So
they're so disengaged,
James,
Hookie. They're so disengaged at the moment, that fan base. Like 25,000 the other week against Freo. I know they're a low-drawing side. It was a Sunday, but they need something to galvanise and bring that club together. He'd need bloody good lieutenants around him and a great football operations manager. But let's just do it and finally bite the bullet. And like you say, in 2 years, if you say this is a disaster. In fact, I would have given him the role now, Hookie, instead of Dean Solomon, and said, you prove to us over the next 6 months, you're the man. What about you? I didn't ask you. Carlton, who do you like?
Josh Fraser. Yeah, I think it's going to be almost impossible to get off him. It feels very Paul Roos-like at Sydney when they were all set to appoint Terry Wallace, and he did so well in that interim period. And I understand that Carlton have got a little asterisk alongside the interim coach because of what happened with David Teague, but I'm very, very confident that with what Josh Fraser's done, they are careering towards a wildcard spot. Imagine if they win a wildcard game and find themselves in an elimination final or even a semi-final. It will be impossible to stop the Carlton fans from going down that road. So, and I think we'll find John Longmire, for me, will be the Tasmania coach next year. But all of that remains to be seen. I tell you what does remain to be seen as well, Tom, is can the Thunderbirds win their third title in 4 years? I know you follow it really closely with all your work you do there at Channel 9 and 5AA. Third in 4 years, where does that rank them amongst the great modern South Australian sports teams?
Right up there. Has to be, Hookie. I mean, South Australian sport right now, as you know, you do a lot of work with the cricket side. The men's cricket side, I think, is on the cusp of a real dynasty as well. I think they could easily go 3 or 4 in a row with the bowling that we've got. But Tanya Obst, and I know you're a huge rap. I've caught a lot of netball over the years and hope to, again down the track. But they're right up there, aren't they, Hookie? I mean, they should win. I'm a bit disappointed with this grand final system where it's being played in Melbourne. That aside, they are the overwhelming favourites. They're the best team in the comp, only lost 1 this season. It's theirs for them, isn't it? I hope they get it done, but what an amazing achievement.
It'll be up there with the Adelaide Lightning of the mid-90s when under Jan Sterling they won 4 titles in 5 years. We cannot get away from this, Tom. I've got a 20-minute limit here. I know we're running out of time.
Yes. Sorry, waffled on.
The waffle away. The Socceroos, they take on Paraguay tomorrow morning. So for many people, while they're listening to this, will already know the result. Tony Popovich was a genius after game 1. He was an idiot 10 minutes into game 2. How do you assess the Socceroos over the course of the first 2 matches? And what do you expect to see tomorrow?
Really impressive first up. Obviously a bit disappointing second, maybe defensive minded, but I think we'll probably get similar in that game because, Hookie, it's a bit complicated. If they lose, they'll finish third in their group. There's 12 groups and 8 of the third-ranked sides go through to the knockout stage. So as long as they don't get smashed, I think a 1-0 or 2-0 loss will probably still see them get through, particularly after Scotland lost 3-0 this morning. So it's all going to get a bit technical, but I think we'll see a bit more of the same. Popovich is a more defensive-minded coach and will get you on the counter-attack. We saw that executed beautifully in game 1. Didn't work against the Yanks. I think they'll be better in the third game. That crowd was hostile against the USA. So I think they'll be better. It's got to be tough, but I reckon they'll go through. And if I had to be pushed on it, I think we might pinch a point tomorrow against Paraguay and go through that way. How do you see it?
We'll have plenty more to talk about the World Cup in coming weeks. I'm going to wrap this up. I've got one little local story to finish with. This is Hookie's Local Sport Minute. One of the great stories, Bianca and Bailey Gill. This is from the Great Southern Women's Football League. Bianca and Bailey both made their debut in the match between Wollonga and Maiponga Selix last weekend. And you're probably thinking, are they sisters? Maybe they're twin sisters. Well, no, they're actually not. Mum, Bianca, daughter, Bailey, both made their A-grade debut on the same day, but this gets better. Bailey was playing for Wollonga and Bianca was playing for Maiponga Selix, the Mudlarks.
No way.
Mother-daughter debut in opposing teams on the same day. That is just an incredible story from the Great Southern League. So,
what a
one
great
of my
game,
favourites. We'll have plenty of those.
You're
mate.
the master at finding these yarns. I love all your work with the golf, and your Hooked on Sport column was one of the best. So look forward to a few more of those.
We are 1 minute over time, Tom. Just such a pleasure, mate. Great fun. Strike me pink. We'll do it every week. We'll do it inside 20 minutes. Look forward to doing it with you again next week, my man.
Can't wait. Good on you, Hookie.